Konnichiwa. Today we are going to mix some mounting paste in preparation for mounting our artwork. To begin with, I'm going to first go through the materials you will need to do this, and then I'll go through step by step. The first part of the process is mixing the paste. For that, you will need methyl cellulose, and this is from the Oriental Art Supply Kit. And then I recommend that you have a container to mix the paste in that you can also keep it in later on. So I will do that with a plastic container. You'll need some, and I have some hot water here in a thermos, and then some cold water. And this is distilled, it's all distilled water. To begin with, I'm going to be using just a third of this mixture, a third of this recipe. The first thing I'll do is take 1 heaping tablespoon of the methyl cellulose. So that's a heaping tablespoon. I'm just going to pour that into the container. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of the hot water. I will be using a third of a cup of water. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out now. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of water into the dish so I can mix it up kind of like a roux. I'm using a long handled teaspoon here. You could also use a whisk or a wooden spoon. I'm going to need a little bit more, so I'll go ahead and just add a little bit more just to make this into a thick paste. I'm just trying to get all of the powder wet first. And now I'm going to go ahead and pour in the third cup of hot water. And so now I'll go ahead and mix this up. And this is going to take a little bit of time. You want to just break up all of the lumps. I have my quiche pan next to me because once I'm finished, that's where I'll pour out the mixture. And then sometimes I'll just press and squish the lumps to go ahead and get them all out. And you can see that there's a lot of bubbles that are forming. One of the reasons why I recommend that you make this the night before you're going to paste or the day before you're going to paste is that'll give bubbles some time to settle. Now, once pretty much mixed in, so all of the solid lumps have broken up, I'm going to slowly add 1/3 cup of the cold water. So I've distilled some water here, and then I'll just slowly add a little bit of the cold water and continue to mix. Now you can see that it's getting much thicker just by adding the cold water. So let's check and see how thick it is. So we test it from the side and you can see how thick. That was just with about a tablespoon added so far. So I'm slowly adding it. And now you can see it's getting to be like a real thick gelatin. So I need to add more water. And I still haven't added the full 1/3 cup yet. But you can see I'm adding it bit by bit. About a 1/4 of that 1/3 cup at a time. So far we've got 1 tablespoon of methyl cellulose. That was a heaping tablespoon. 1/3 cup of hot water that we first added about a tablespoon to mix it up together. And now we're slowly adding the cold water. Couple key points. You want to make sure your area is clean, that the clothes you're wearing don't kill, or you don't want to get any debris in the mixture, because any debris will end up being adhered to your painting. So you want to keep a real clean area for the mixing. No pet hairs. no fuzz balls. No lint. The other thing I recommend you do, you want to keep your studio or your work area at about 40% humidity. It's still much too thick, and there's lots of air bubbles in there. See how thick that is? So we'll add some more cold water. And I'm just going to be adding this a little bit at a time. This is very much like baking in a sense, where it is going to depend on the humidity of the room. So the time of year can affect it. Japan is a very humid country, and so there's usually a lot of moisture in the air. So I'm going to add more. And what the goal we are going for here is we want it to be about the consistency of a real thin yogurt. Remember, this is going to be laid on the back of your painting like wallpaper paste, or, just think of it as like a thin glaze of glue so that the backing paper will bond to it. So when you get the glue too thick, see how thick that is still? You can always add more water. If you add too much water, you can let it sit for a while, open to let it release some of the moisture into the air, but the best thing to do is to go slowly as you're mixing it so that you can get all the lumps out. Now I'm going to slow down and just be adding this about a tablespoon at a time. And we're almost there. So that's starting to look good. I'm just going to add a little bit more. And I could have been mixing it with a whisk the whole time. One of the reasons why I don't often use a whisk, it really get a lot stuck on the whisks there. That gives you also a better idea. Probably going to end up using another, 1/3 cup of water. So that's pretty good. Now I'll be pouring it into the dish because this is what we'll be using for our mounting. And I will be doing that tomorrow because I'd like this to sit overnight so that you see all these bubbles in here. I really want those to rest and subside. So then I'll seal up the glue. Just take like a Sharpie marker and write the date. Hopefully I'll have enough artwork to go through the whole lot. It could last up to about 2 months if you store it in a dry place out of the sunlight. So that's how you mix your paste. Tablespoon of methyl cellulose. Then you use 1/3 cup of hot water. Then you slowly add tablespoon by tablespoon 1/3 cup of cold water. And then continue to add more cold water until the consistency is like a thin, kind of a runny yogurt. All right, tomorrow we'll start mounting our work. We'll let it sit overnight. Thank you.